The three sisters and the ugly prince. Upon a time, in the middle of a dense forest, there lived a poor woodcutter with his wife and 3 daughters. Every day he would go into the forest, cut wood, and sell it in the village to earn a living. One evening, as the sky glowed with golden orange and pink hues, he said to his wife, "Tomorrow, ask our eldest daughter to bring my meal into the forest, because the work will take longer and I'll be late returning home." The next day, the eldest daughter packed a small basket with bread, cheese, and a bowl of stew, and set off. But the forest was thick, and the rustling of the trees mixed with the wind sounded like whispers. As the sun began to set, she lost her way. Darkness spread like a heavy blanket, and fear gripped her heart. Just as the fear began to overwhelm her, she noticed a soft light flickering between the trees. She walked toward the light and came upon an abandoned-looking cottage. Its wooden windows were old and brittle, though thin. Pale smoke rose from the chimney. Hesitantly, she knocked on the door.
There was a knock on the door. It creaked open, and in front of her stood a hunched old man with a long white beard and sharp, watchful eyes. Behind him stood a hen, a rooster, and a spotted cow, their eyes gleaming in the soft light of a candle. The girl respectfully said, "Good evening, sir. I have lost my way. May I spend the night here?" The old man turned to the animals and asked, "Shall we let her in?" The animals nodded. "Then you may stay," the old man said. "But first, you must prepare the meal." The eldest daughter cooked a delicious meal and placed a steaming plate before the old man. But when she sat down to eat, she ignored the hungry stares of the animals. That night, when she asked for a bed to sleep in, the old man pointed to the stairs and said, "You may sleep upstairs." The girl climbed the stairs with a grateful heart. As soon as she got into bed, a loud creaking sound echoed. Suddenly, a door opened beneath the floor, and with a sharp scream, she vanished into the darkness. The next morning, when the mother was puzzled that her daughter hadn't returned, she sent her second daughter with food. She too lost her way, arrived at the same remote hut, and sought shelter. Like her sister, she cooked a meal, but ignored the hungry animals. Just like before, when she went to bed at night, the floor slid open, and she too fell into the darkness. On the 3rd day, the woodcutter's youngest daughter, kind-hearted and gentle, set out with food for her father. The trees in the forest whispered to each other, their shadows long and mysterious, but she walked on bravely. As dusk fell, she too saw the same lonely cottage. The old man opened the door, and the youngest daughter greeted him with a warm smile. "Respected elder, I've lost my way. May I spend the night here?" Once again, the old man looked at his animals and asked, "Shall we let her in?" The animals nodded. "Yes, you may stay," the old man said. "But first, you must prepare dinner." The youngest daughter immediately got to work. She chopped fragrant herbs, stirred the pot, and baked bread. Soon, the entire house was filled with the delicious aroma. When the food was ready, she placed a plate before the old man. But before sitting down herself, her eyes fell on the hen, rooster, and spotted cow, all looking at her with hopeful eyes. "You're hungry too, aren't you?" she said cheerfully. She scattered grains for the birds and placed fresh grass in front of the cow. The cow lovingly rubbed her head against the girl's arm, as if thanking her. When she asked for a bed, the old man smiled and pointed to the stairs. She went upstairs.
She went to bed and lay down, her heart filled with peace and love. But suddenly, in the middle of the night, the entire house began to shake. It felt as if the walls were crumbling, the ground was trembling, and an immense, invisible power was taking control of the house. Her eyes widened in shock, but just as quickly as the storm had come, it also subsided. Everything fell silent once again. Although she was bewildered, she soon fell back into a peaceful sleep. When she woke up, the girl placed her hand on her heart, her breath caught in astonishment. The old worn-out walls of the house had melted away and disappeared, replaced by a magnificent palace. Golden chandeliers sparkled, marble floors gleamed, and colorful stained glass windows on tall walls scattered light everywhere. As the girl blinked in disbelief, a handsome young man stood before her. He was no longer the old, frail man with white hair she had met the night before. His deep eyes gleamed with love and wisdom, and his face radiated a smile full of joy and energy. He was dressed in royal attire. "This magic is broken," he said, his voice filled with emotion and charm. "The cruel fairy had placed a terrifying spell on me, which trapped me in the form of an old man in a lonely hut. I could not be freed until a kind-hearted woman came, who showed mercy not only to humans, but also to animals. Your compassion and kindness freed me from that captivity." The prince called upon two courtiers, their eyes shining with joy and admiration. They were a married couple. He told them that these were the very chickens, rooster, and hen that the beautiful woman had helped. Her golden hair was flowing, and she was dressed in a golden outfit. The man wore a hat with feathers on it. Then the prince called his vizier, a kind-hearted servant, and explained that this was the cow to whom she had given fresh grass. These were the animals cursed by magic, under the influence of an evil curse. But your kindness and mercy had freed us. That's why we have returned to our true form." The lady bowed, and the young girl, overwhelmed with astonishment and emotions, placed her hand over her chest. The magic that had once hovered in the air had now ceased. Just then, the prince stepped forward, his gaze full of dignity and gentleness. "Come," he softly said, "you saved us, and I want you to stay with me forever." On his command, swift messengers mounted on fast horses spread across the kingdom, and they reached the girl's parents, inviting them to the palace. When they arrived, they were astonished to see their daughter, who had once worn humble clothes, now standing in royal attire next to the prince. The prince bowed before them, his heart full of respect and reverence. "Your daughter has freed me from endless sorrow," he said solemnly. "With your permission, I would like to ask for her hand in marriage." The woodcutter and his wife, their eyes shimmering with tears of joy, embraced their daughter and gave their consent. However, the prince knew justice was still not complete. He turned to his royal guards and, in a firm tone, said, "Take care of the matters of the kingdom." The prince decided to teach the lesson that they had never learned. Therefore, the elder and middle sisters were sent to a dense forest, where they were made to work in a coal mine. They would remain there until their hearts softened and they learned humility not just towards humans, but all living beings. Only when their hearts had changed would they be allowed to return. As for the youngest sister, she was adorned in royal silk attire and became the princess of the palace. The wedding celebration was so grand that it lasted for days, with music filling the air and the joy of the occasion continuing long into the night.